Yeah, I say partial post-mortem because I'm not ready to call Lori's dream dead yet. I mean, when we first looked at it, we discussed the possibility that something could happen on September 11th, or maybe it is just the beginning of a countdown process. It's pointing to that day, September 11th, Sunday, September 11th, as the beginning of a 3-2-1 countdown. And that part to me is still very much alive. And I wanted to show you something else in this video about a potential countdown that I'll think you'll find very interesting. But let's don't sugarcoat it. Not seeing anything spectacular happen on September 11th was, mildly disappointing. I mean, the next day I was completely fine, and I'm looking forward to the other important dates, high watch dates in September, and then be ready to move to October if necessary. But it was a little disappointing. But you have to understand, there is an arm. My sister. Yeah.
I have giants and titans in my front yard. Help!
Is that it?
There's so many of them. Help!
Okay, thanks for calling.
Help!
I mean, I expected to get mocked. My own family? Actually, there's been very little mocking. I mean, everybody understood going into it. This is a possibility. And I think it's still a possibility. One person kind of mocked that we're a little silly, tying a serious prophetic event to a football game, which we never were, which I made clear. Our Lord isn't interested in the NFL schedule, but he is pointing and using, as he did in his earthly ministry, cultural icons so that we could identify and see what he's talking about. Whether it was a king or a torturer or comparing himself as a thief. He's not pro-thievery, but he's using the things that we can understand and get. And I think if he was using that game, it was to pinpoint the date, not the game itself. Now, ironically, one of the most surprising things that happened on September 11th was that the Giants beat the Titans. That was about the only significant thing that I could find that happened on that day. But if it was pointing to the beginning of a countdown, well, I'm going to show you, I showed you one countdown. I'm going to show you a very interesting countdown that one of our commenters left on this channel. And I think you're going to find it very interesting. But there is an army of people out there who are doing terrific work analyzing dates and looking at events and all looking into the heavens, looking for signs. So when one comes and we say, hey, this is an important possible date or event, and it passes, we move on to the next one. Well, we're like a police detective at a crime scene, collecting clues, hoping that one of the clues, yields some fruit, sends it off to the lab, comes back, no, it's not a match. He doesn't go into his superior's office and say, here's my badge and gun, I'm done. You move on. There are people who are doing amazing work. There's a person who goes by the name of Someday Hero, left a brilliant analysis of what he sees or she sees. I don't know their pronoun. So, trying to and detailing exactly what they think is going to happen, brilliant analysis, but they know it's speculative. That person, Someday Hero, is pointing to September 22 of this month and a certain day in November. Now, a lot of people are looking at September 22nd. It's the last day of summer. Dunamis 333 is looking at September 22nd. A lady in Ireland who emailed me, she studies the mathematical properties of pi, and she believes there is a link to prophecy even in that. And she was pointing to possibly 9/11 or September 22nd. So that's a date that keeps coming up, and I will watch for that as well as the new moon on September 25th. But it does all of this. We can compartmentalize. It doesn't detract from the prime objectives. The prime objectives are, number one, him. Number two, his commands. But this is an offshoot of one of his prime directives. He said, watch. What I say to you, I say to everyone, watch. He gave parables about it. And so people are doing it in the most unique ways. Some of you would say, yeah, but I can't do that. That's just not how my mind works. That's fine. My mind doesn't work that way either. In many cases, I'm just a bystander on a lot of sites, reading what other people have discovered and are discovering. Watching can simply be eagerly awaiting. That's what he wants. When you eagerly await, you have him in focus. You don't eagerly await for something you don't care about. That's why it's so important to watch. And if we watch, I think he will reward it. But he is going to make it tough as well. It's never going to be easy. So we stick at it. Stay at it. When something fails, we move on to the next thing. Well, let me give you a possible next thing. Now, remember, I gave a countdown possibility in a previous video. I think it was the very first video I did about the dream, a 3, 2, 1, using 9/11 as the 3. Remember, 9/11 was the 3. The next Sunday, September 18th, would be 2. And then the new moon Sunday, the possible start of Feast of Trumpets, would be 1. And I still think that's an interesting 3, 2, 1 countdown. But there's another one. One of the viewers on this channel left a comment. Now, I cannot find that comment because I would give him or her credit if I could find him. That doesn't surprise me. Comments on these YouTube channels seem to appear and disappear at random. And I could not find their comment, but I took note of it when I read it a couple of weeks ago. This person had a different idea about the countdown. Their countdown would go like this. September 11, 3, 10/11, October 11th, 2, and then November 11, 11/11 would be 1. And it just so happens that Same Day Hero is also looking at November 11th, but got there by a completely different route. A number of people are looking at November 11. And it's kind of ironic. The channel is named 11/11. And so it certainly caught my attention. But I also saw something else when I saw 11/11. And this is kind of interesting. So if the countdown were to begin on 9/11 and it ends on 11/11, it's really ending also on 9/11 again. Lori always felt the dream was about 9/11. November 11 is really the 11th day of the month named 9. That's what November is. That's where it came from. It's Latin for 9. So 11/11 is actually 9/11. Beginning with 9/11 and ending on a 9/11 is a very interesting concept. Will I spend a lot of time between now and then on 11/11, November 11th? No. I'm going to spend time on September, and then I'm going to deal with October. And when we get to November, yeah, I may bring it up again, but I'm not going to be talking about it unless something really, interesting comes up until we get to November. I'm going to deal with what we got right now. But 11/11 is a very interesting watch day. It may come and go, or it may be spectacular. November 11th is interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a high occult day. It's a big day in the New Age movement. A lot of people believe that the armistice that was signed ending World War I, it was signed on 11/11. It was actually signed early in the morning, but it did not take place until the 11th hour of November 11th. And a lot of people believe that was because of the deep state occult members who were pushing for that date and time to be the one that the treaty was signed on. It's a big day for the enemy. So a natural question would be, well, why would God use a day like that? Wouldn't he use a feast day? Well, yes and no. He loves reclaiming what is his. November 11th is his. It may have been co-opted by the enemy, but it's his. A lot of scholars believe that the Transfiguration took place on Mount Hermon, which I, for most of my life, called Mount Hermon, until I found that people who went over there and found out it's actually Mount Hermon or something similar to that. But Mount Hermon, according to Enoch, was the site of a lot of fallen angel activity and a lot of nefarious rituals that took place on top of that mount. And he walked right up there and revealed who he really was. He also gave a very strong proclamation about his church right in front of the Grotto of Pan, or the gates of the underworld. The grotto is his. Mount Hermon is his. November 11th is his. He's reclaiming what is his. Jupiter is his. It's named after an abomination, but the planet is his. So it's going to be interesting. But we aren't derailed from our prime objectives as we continue down this path, because we know we're at this incredible time. I mean, there's never been a time like it in modern history, maybe ever, around the world. It's strange. I know personally because he told me. He gave me the thought that told me the letters written to the 7 churches of the book of Revelation are for now. We have reached that moment when they are now relative. He is coming soon. We don't lose sight of that fact. And we should have built in, if we had known the 3 event lines, we would have seen that there's going to be a period of frustration for all of us watchers, because this timeline right here, his timeline, God's timeline, that begins chapter 8, verse 1, and ends at the end of chapter 11, it explains everything he's going to do, the hour of testing that he's bringing upon the world. And it begins with about a half hour of silence. It's ironic. The other 2 lines, they start off with bangs. The rider on the white horse goes forth to conquer and conquer. Revelation 12, the Revelation 12 sign, the dragon is right there trying to destroy the seed of God, and then fallen to earth, and then the beast rising out of the sea. What does God's line look like at the start? Silence. He's waiting. So we should have known that when we're waiting inside the 30 minutes of silence, it's going to be a bit frustrating, because we're waiting for him to move, and he will move at the perfect time. And when he does, look out. It's going to be spectacular. So we watch. And I think he'd rather be in a position where he has to kind of tamp down our enthusiasm just a little bit, rather than find a spark of life. You know, it was Ephesus. Now, it certainly related to the church of Ephesus in the 1st century, but whatever he considers the church of Ephesus now that's on the earth, they're in danger of losing their candlestick. They've lost their first love. He can't get that spark out of them, and that's what gets your candlestick removed. So fight through any slight frustration, any slight depression, any slight mocking, because we're doing it because we care about him, and he knows that. So important days are coming this month. There'll be something in October, trust me. And then we'll have something very interesting in November. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for your participation in this, helping all of us watching together and exchanging ideas. God bless you.